Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen. Today I'm finally making mac and cheese. I say finally because people have been asking me, have you done it, when you're doing it? It's a dish that everybody loves. So I started thinking about recipes. What recipe shall I demonstrate? And then I thought, it's really about technique. I'm just going to show you how to make really good mac and cheese, solid technique, then you can do whatever you want. So first things first, let's talk about the pasta. This is a cavatappi, and the reason I chose this is because it's a shortcut. It has a little hole in it. What you want to think about when you're choosing your pasta is how the cheese sauce that you're about to make is going to be delivered in your mouth. What's that bite going to be like? So what you want, by and large, are short cuts of pasta with a little hole in it. So in other words, you don't want a big gauged rigatoni, rather a little penne. Elbow macaroni is fine, but I like to play around with these like gemelli or the little fancy cuts, just for something different. And this was only boiled for 4 minutes. It was boiled in a salted water. I kept some of the water just in case I need sauce. You never know. I mean, this is liquid gold. Never throw your water out. What I'm doing is I'm adding butter to this. You can add a little oil, but if you leave these noodles naked, what happens is they get sticky, and you just want to cover them somehow so that they won't stick to each other while you make your sauce. The sauce that you make for this is called a bechamel. It's a classic French sauce. It's a creamy white sauce, and you start a bechamel with a roux. What a roux is a paste that you make equal amounts of a fat, in this case butter, and flour. And equal amounts means not by volume. In other words, it's not 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of flour, but rather by weight. So this is actually just a little over 2 tablespoons of butter and 3 tablespoons of flour. Flour goes in, you can see the butter's bubbling, and that's fine. Cook this roux for about 30 seconds. Once all the flour is incorporated into this butter. And the idea is you just want to make it so that you're not going to taste flour in the final product. And when that happens, you'll know it because right around the edges of your roux, and there are different kinds of roux, but right around the edges, you'll see it starts to look like white and pasty, and that's how you know it's time to move on from there. And from there, I'm going to add 2.5 cups of warm milk. You can see there's a little white bits. If you go further from this, if you cook this further, you can get into what's called a blonde roux, and then there's, that's more like a Creole Cajun thing. You really don't want color on this. So now you start adding milk. So this is a warm milk, and that's going to assure that at the end, the final product, you will not have lumps. And you can make big additions if your milk is warm. Otherwise, if you're using a cold liquid, you have to go very slowly, stir for, seems like hours. Okay, well, this is going to simmer, and I'll stir it, and that's going to take about, maybe 5 minutes, and then it'll be nice and creamy, and then we can move on from there. Okay, well, this has gotten creamy. I turned the heat off, and now I'm adding a little nutmeg from the nut. It makes a big difference, and you don't need much of it. But honestly, that flavor, if you've never tried it in a bechamel, it's just incredible. It's so delicious. Another addition that I like is a couple shots of Tabasco. It just kind of perks the cheese up because Cheese, by and large, is very mellow in your mouth, so this kind of gives your taste buds a little something else to do. So I like that. And now let me just talk about the cheeses. My cheeses, when I make mac and cheese, I go into the fridge and I see, what do I want to get rid of? So I had a little bit of Swiss cheese, and I mean that is a little. So that's going in because the flavor profile of Swiss cheese is nutty, and that would work very well with this cheddar cheese that I'm using. I also had some Gorgonzola. Gorgonzola is a blue cheese, and again, that works really well. It's a soft cheese. The cheddar cheese is like a medium grate, and then you can also use an aged cheese. This Gorgonzola is going to give this a really nice flavor. It's going to give it an earthiness and kind of pop this other cheddar cheese flavor, which is kind of mellow. Now this is an aged cheddar, but this is only aged about 8 months. So it's not, it didn't have a hard rind on it. When you buy a truly aged cheese, it will be really dense, and it should have a rind. Now I've cooked 1/2 pound of pasta. I'm using 2.5 cups of milk. And in total for cheese, I'm using 1 pound of cheese. I think Gary just fell off his chair. We'll wait for you, Gary. 1 pound of cheese because it's just so good. It pushes the envelope, but it's not oversaturation. People will know they're eating mac and cheese, and it's cheesy, gooey, and delicious, and that's what it's all about, right? Is it healthy? I'm not going to say it is, but it's not something that you eat every day. So here we go. Now I'm saving this. This is probably 1.5 cups. I think two cups of grated cheese is 8 ounces, by and large. I mean, it depends on how you grate, but on a box grater, as long as your volume equals 4 cups for this, you can mix and match cheeses any way you like. So now there is your cheese sauce. Now this is a demonstration of a cheese that you do not want to use, or if you do, just very sparingly. This is Parmigiano Reggiano, but it could be a Gouda, it could be any other aged cheese. When you see a cheese that has these little crystallization marks in there, these little crystals in the cheese are caused through the aging process of the cheese. Those cheeses are not good to use in mac and cheese because they're delicious, but they leave a grainy texture in your mouth. So I have the sauce, I have the macaroni ready to go, and now remember, this has this particular cut of pasta. This might look like a lot of sauce, but this particular cut of pasta has like a little canal all the way through here. It's like a corkscrew, a hollowed out corkscrew. So this cheese sauce is going to get all the way in all of those little canals and give you a nice little bite. So we made a bechamel, and then we added cheese, and the classic term for that, just so you know, is a Mornay sauce. So you have, without the cheese is a bechamel. Add the cheese, now you've made another sauce, a Mornay. Ah, those French. There are rules for everything, right? This will end up, after it bakes, being very creamy, and then on top, I'm going to top it. I don't use breadcrumbs. I'm going to top it with just some more of this cheese, and again, doing it to the saturation point. You just want to cover it so that all of this becomes crusty and gooey with a few little craggy places. Just going to clean this pan up, put this on a half sheet pan just in case it bubbles over. I don't want that in my stove. And because this is already hot, I'm putting it in a 375, or you can even go 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. If you were to hold this, you can put this in your fridge. If you're bringing it to a potluck dinner, let's say, put this in your fridge, you take it out 30 minutes before you want to bake it. Bake at 350 for about 30 minutes, and that's going to give you a nice crust on the bottom all the way around, and then of course on top as well. Hi, well, I'm back. This came out of the oven about 15 minutes ago. You have to let it rest before you can take it out of the pan. So now it's time to see what we've done here. I had this in the oven, and I did use a lot of cheese, and this crust came out crusty, but you know, it's not as brown as I had hoped. So this is something most people won't show you, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get it brown to the way I want it to be. Because you want that cheese toasty. That's just part of the goodness. If you don't have a torch, you can throw this under the broiler. I'm doing this really just for effect. It's fun. So now my cheese is nice and brown. And let's just take some of this. Again, who doesn't love mac and cheese? Just look at that. Ooey gooey. Let me just have a taste. Earlier I said you have to think about how the cut of pasta is going to deliver that cheese sauce. This is so good. Well, that is your technical review of mac and cheese, and I hope that you learned something here. I hope this inspires you to make it. You'll do it great. Please let me know. Follow me here on YouTube at Nina in the Kitchen, and Facebook, ninainthekitchen.net, for the recipes, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.